Oh, yes, Jerry Dipoto, somebody who was riding the wave with the fans tonight, right?
Oh, very much so. We were up and down, and, the number of times we had runners on and couldn't quite get anything done. And at one point we looked up, I think there were 11 total hits in the game, and 7 of them had been achieved by either nails or their right fielder. And it was, you're sitting there watching it thinking, no way is this happening again. But this time we pulled it out.
Jerry, we had so much intrigue about this game coming in. You had so many options of what you could do with the pitching, and you were very specific, and I think a lot of people, we're going to get into it all. Start with George Kirby getting the start and how you determined who could pitch out of the bullpen as well.
First of all, the way we determined it is, in the last 48 hours since we got back from Detroit, one of the coolest things that happened was all of our starting pitchers came filing in through Dan's office and volunteered to pitch. So everybody was available. Everybody was on the card today, which is the first time we've ever had that. And we threw it open. We have to get to the next round, whatever it takes. And the guys figured out what it takes. That's the final. And we talked about it in early September. We've been to places like this, twice in the ALDS now, and we just found out what it takes. It takes everything you've got. And the next round's going to be even harder.
It is going to be harder. We'll get to that in a couple of days. We'll get some sleep before that, hopefully. But also, when you got to all of these pitchers, if you were watching closely, it really appeared that you flipped the script on it. We saw a lot of fastballs, but the 2 and the 4, I think he was 64% fastball, George Kirby, in his first start against him. He came out just firing sliders and breaking pitches today, and that was kind of the tone with the plan.
Yeah, we went into it with that plan. We gathered information as the series went along. We looked at what their lineup does and how they perform versus both fastball and breaking ball, and in particularly against George. George has started against him a handful of times. The last start was a good one. Prior to that, he'd had his struggles against Detroit, and today we just flipped the script on his approach and his pitch usage, and we stuck with it throughout for our bullpen, really until the rock came in the game. It was breaking ball fest, and I think it played into what we do best and maybe what the Tigers were weakest at. And I'm glad we did it that way. It afforded us an opportunity to get to the end of the game and have a chance to win it.
Other than the pitching that they had, what enabled? 15 innings. I could start seeing bats slow down. I could see Cal taking a little longer to get up. What kept those guys in that game? Will,
the want-to, desire. And I know the guys on the other side wanted it equally as bad. This team wants to move. They want to move forward. They want to shake the shadow of 40 years or 50 years or whatever's ailed us. I think the real key to this was that Humpy won, and we got to the next level. And I think the fact that our guys have played together in this environment before is a huge thing. We have, the first time we went through this, we had so many young players that had never experienced that type of intense baseball. It was fun for them for 162 games, and then the playoffs is an entirely different type of intensity. And this time we were more prepared for it. Our roster's deeper, and it was just sheer will. And, you could see Cal throwing down in between innings, those last 5 innings. I thought he needed a cutoff man. And, but we got through it, and the guys came through, and now we got to figure out who pitches on Sunday.
Any hints?
Probably Bryce and friends, But, for a couple of days, we may have to be creative in how we weave it together simply because so many guys had to pitch in today. But it was important that we give ourselves 7 more opportunities to go to the World Series.
Yeah, and I know that has been a goal of yours since you came here. What does it mean to you personally to be where you are right now with this club?
Yes. I think the joy that we all feel, that we accomplished it together, that everybody was pulling on the same end of the rope. There's not a single guy in that clubhouse that doesn't understand what we are about. The Mariners, this team, our staff inside, our front office, organizationally. I think we evolved this year, especially in the second half of this year, in a way that we hadn't before. And sometimes that's what it takes. It just takes time, and it takes experiences, it takes trust, and it takes a lot of talent, and we have that.
Lastly, what has Dan Wilson meant to all of this?
I said to Dan when I first encountered him after the game, gave him a hug, congratulated him. I think tonight was the best game that he's ever managed. I had an opportunity to see them all, and I know a lot of our fans have too. He hit every mark, and not all the moves worked immediately, but you can't strategically make smarter moves than he made. And I think it got us to, I said this a moment ago, to go out there and face Scooble and have to beat him for a 4th time in a year is really hard, and we had to be creative in how we did it. We knew contact was going to be at a premium. We knew you weren't going to string together a lot of hits. We probably knew we weren't going to hit a lot of balls out of the ballpark. We're facing what might be the best pitcher in the world right now, and and the way to do it was just to survive. To grit your way through it, to scratch some runs across and manufacture. I'm really happy with the biggest play in the game might have been Nails stealing third base, and set Garb up for a sac fly, which was huge, and just gritted his way through it. And that's kind of what Dan brings, is just a belief in the players and there's never a player that comes through that door that doesn't understand that it's about them. And that's what Dan does better than anybody I've ever been around.
Jerry, congratulations. Get some rest. There's a long way to go.
Thanks, Shannon.
That is Jerry Dipoto, who is just absolutely thrilled with what he